Since Israel pulled out from Gaza, leaving the Strip to the Palestinians, it was hoped the withdrawal would lead a path to peace. But instead, the move sparked criticism over the Israeli government's handling of the process. And with Tel Aviv reportedly considering a similar move in the West Bank, RT's Paula Sleer discovered that Israelis living there are far from happy with the plans.
5 years on, and the pictures still haunt. Israeli soldier pitted against Israeli citizen. Israelis had hoped that by withdrawing 8,000 settlers from Gaza, they'd be extending an olive branch to the Palestinians. But most underestimated the violence and heartbreak that would follow.
The soldiers came, they went to the window and shouted. I said, why don't you come and knock on the door like normal people? They told me you are under arrest. You were supposed to have left Gaza already. The soldiers were crying, the children were crying, I was crying. I looked at Gaza, I looked at the sea, I said, that's it, it's over.
Yafa Levran lived in Gaza with her husband and 9 children for 16 years. Until the last moment, they refused to pack up and left with nothing more than the clothes on their back. The sign to their house was the only thing they brought with them. 5 years ago, most Israelis supported the withdrawal, but today more than half think it was a mistake. Throughout Israel, there are some dozen communities like this, where Gaza refugees, despite the promises made to them, are still living in temporary housing. And now, in settlements across the West Bank, people are afraid the same fate awaits them. Shaul Goldstein's been mayor of the Gush Etzion settlement block for 11 years. He's furious with Israeli Premier Benjamin Netanyahu, who, in his latest bid for peace, allegedly offered the Palestinians 90% of the West Bank if they agreed to direct talks. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is under pressure to give an answer in the coming days.
If the government of Israel would decide to go out of Judea and Samaria, for me, it's like committing suicide. The width of Israel, if we're going to give them Judea and Samaria, is a 10-minute drive for a tank, not for a vehicle. A tank, drive it for 10 minutes. Who can defend it?
The Israeli government spent more than $2 billion evacuating 8,000 settlers from Gaza. It would need to remove nearly 50 times that number from the West Bank, a financial and logistical nightmare.
Most of the settlements deep inside Palestinian territory. I think if numbers were different and location was different, maybe we could reach an agreement for many of those to stay under Palestinian sovereignty.
Today, more than ever, Israeli settlers in the West Bank have the sympathy of the Israeli public. The last thing they want is a repeat of these pictures.
What the public says, no more. No, we are not going to do it like this. We are not going to disengage. We are not willing to do any concessions. It's time of the Arabs, it's time of the Palestinians to do their part in the game.
And while the Israeli government contemplates another withdrawal, Yafa Levran is still waiting to be reimbursed for her home. She was promised a new life, but is still living in a caravan 5 years later. Paula Sleer, RT, Kibbutz Ein Sorem,